Hello, my name is Schwab, and welcome to SSKN. We're almost through half the year, so might as well do a mid-year recap. ESPN, Barstool Sports, they all do full year in review. But why wait until then? Let's do a half year in review. By the way, I also celebrate half birthdays. What made my list? A nun, a 32-year-old rookie, and a guy with one arm, and more. And what will be included? The best sports city of 2018 so far, voted by me. First, a guy with only one arm. Yes, Shaquem Griffin, who was a star at UCF and actually ended up winning the MVP of the UCF bowl game, was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. It is not a feel-good story anymore. After not being invited to the NFL Combine, then eventually getting an invite and shining there, having the fastest 40-yard dash out of any linebacker in the past 10 years, and blasting it out in the bench press with a prosthetic hand on, he was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, where he will reunite with his brother. Next, a 32-year-old rookie. Yes, you heard that right. The Lakers' Andre Ingram, who was in the G League for 10 years, was pulled up to the Lakers once they knew that their season was over and they were not going to make it to the playoffs. In his first game, 19 points. Yes, 19 points. And who did he get to play alongside? His cousin, Brandon Ingram. Now that's a cool story for a 32-year-old to play in his first NBA game and shine. Next, Loyola Chicago. An 11 seed in March Madness was able to make it to the Final Four, where they lost to Mo Wagner and Michigan in a tough game. Who led the team? 98-year-old nun, Sister Jean, as she went to every single game and rooted Loyola Chicago on. Speaking of upsets, UMBC upset Virginia in the first round of the South region, becoming the first 16 seed to ever win a game against the 1 seed in March Madness. A lot of crazy upsets this year. Another thing, the Las Vegas Golden Knights made it to the Stanley Cup Finals as the expansion team. Yes, expansion teams never do well in the first year. Not the Golden Knights. Led by Fury, they were the first expansion team to ever make it to the championship. And who do they play? The Capitals. If you watched my show a few weeks ago, you would have seen I predicted this final. And for the Capitals, this year was the first ever in the past 20 years making it to the Stanley Cup, and this series was the first ever Stanley Cup win. So 2 firsts for the Golden Knights making it to the finals, and for the Capitals winning a game in the finals. How about Manchester City having 100 points in the Premier League this year, the most points of all time in Premier League history. Players shined like Kevin De Bruyne, Leroy Sané, Sergio Aguero, and Pep Guardiola proved he is one of the best coaches in the history of soccer. This is his 3rd title with 3 different leagues and 3 different clubs. He coached Barcelona in La Liga, Bayern Munich in Bundesliga in Germany, and now Manchester City in England in the Premier League. Now that is hard to do. The first manager to ever do that in Europe. Now, onto the college football championship. Alabama versus one of their SEC rivals, Georgia. This is Alabama's 3rd year in a row, losing to Clemson last year, but they made up for it, winning this year in overtime. They were down the whole game, Jalen Hurts having a bad game, so they brought in the freshman, Tua from Hawaii, who ended up saving them in overtime with a deep touchdown pass and winning the championship for Alabama. 2 out of 3 years, the championship has gone to Alabama. On to golf. Tiger Woods making the comeback. After injuries and controversies, Tiger was out for a while and not playing golf at any level. But now, He was one of the favorites for the Masters this year. And although he did not perform that well, golf fans were happy to see Tiger back on the course. To tennis, Roger Federer proved he is still one of the best in the world as a 36-year-old. He just won the Australian Open and became the first person ever to have 20 Grand Slam titles in men's history. Also, at one point this year, he was number 1 ATP in the whole world, although he is one of the oldest people on tour. And now, the best city. Drum roll, please. Okay, everyone, close your eyes. You can open them. Yes, Philadelphia, the Eagles, the Sixers, and Villanova. Plus, I love their cheesesteaks. Eagles won the Super Bowl for the first ever Super Bowl. Carson Wentz went down, who was probably going to be the MVP if he did not get hurt. So next man up, Nick Foles had to step in and ended up winning the Eagles the Super Bowl, plus won the Super Bowl MVP. They were underdogs the whole time in the playoffs. I mean, just look at Jason Kelsey. For Villanova, they lost in the championship last year. But this year in March Madness, they came out strong, beating Michigan in the finals. The star, Dante DiVincenzo. Jalen Brunson, who was the player of the year, had early fouls. So six-man Dante DiVincenzo had to step up and ended up scoring 39 points, the most of all time in a March Madness final by a bench player. Wow, that's hard to do. Lastly, the Sixers. Reminiscent of Kareem and Magic, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have proved that they're one of the best and strongest duos in the NBA. They have been so good this year, and the Sixers were third in the East, falling short to the Celtics in one of the Eastern Conference matches. But for the Sixers, they have many bright years in the NBA and could possibly win the NBA championship in a few years. 2.5 years ago, before Embiid, before Ben Simmons, before Darius Saric, I predicted the Sixers to win the NBA Finals in 2019. Just watch.
Shout out to the 76ers, who are my prediction for the 2019 NBA Championship.
Ready? Set your calendars for 6 months from right now. Wait until you see the second half year in review. World Cup, World Series, and hopefully not World War III, now that Trump and North Korea are best friends. That's it for the first half, year in review, and Schwab out.